Hi, and welcome to the Fierce Voice Podcast. I'm your host, Brigette Gildemaster. This is a podcast for those who are ready to leave behind survival mode after abuse, where we talk about what it looks like to embody who you are as an individual, learn to love yourself, and bring to light healing after surviving abuse from relationships and religion. Pop your earbuds in to hear heartfelt and powerful intensity from myself and guests. Be ready to put into place actual tools and gather insight for you to use on your healing journey. And welcome back to the Fierce Voice Podcast. I'm your host, Brigette Gildemaster, and today I have Taz with me. I am so excited. And actually, is that how you pronounce your name? I should have asked beforehand. Okay, perfect. I love unique names, so that's great. She is our guest today. I'm so excited. We chatted a little bit before I hit record, and I am just so excited to hear everything she has to share, her opinions and her viewpoints, and the journey that has brought her to where she is today. So I'll let you take it away.
Well, thank you, Brigette. Hi, everybody. As Brigette has said, my name is Taz. I am a Bengali Muslim first generation college educated woman who was raised by American immigrant parents. And let me tell you, figuring out all that and what that means about who I am and how I should put myself out there in this world was a lot. It was confusing, and finding that courage to even embrace all the things that make me who I am really was a journey that I am still on today. And one day I realized that the biggest part of this journey are the stories that come with it, and the stories of the connections we make and the people that come along the way. And so I wanted to share that. I wanted to create a platform where we can talk about those things, the things that make embracing your identity hard, the things about our society that maybe are obstacles in figuring out who we are, and just create a platform where it's okay to not be okay and to be on that journey. And so I'm so excited to be here and talk to you more about it. Thank you so much for the opportunity. And yeah, I'm excited to dive in.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us. Yeah, I this is so unique. You have so many components to your story. I feel like and the mission you've come out with it is so beautiful. Like I feel like on every level we can all resonate with that, like, and bring it into our own story. So I love that you speak about identity. I think that's what catches my ear the most, because that has been my struggle, being raised in the Christian world. You're raised to grow up and be a mom and get married and, do the checklist and have it all right. And then when that all fell apart for me, after I did all the right things, my identity was shattered. Like I had no idea who I was. I had no idea how to identify as a single mom, what that looked like, what kind of single mom I wanted to be. And, I love you said this earlier before we got on, but just that there is no right way. So I would love for you to talk about that and expand more on that part of your journey and what you've learned.
Yeah, sure. And I love what you touched on with your own story because it's very similar to mine in that I was following what they told you was the right path. And I was like that good grades, polite, like did what I was told, acted the way that I was told to act, and it worked out. It worked out for me for a while until one day it didn't. Until
Mhm.
the world got more complicated, until my life got more complicated and I started to question things. And when I started to question things, suddenly the same people in my life that had been so supportive were now telling me, why are you not acting the way that you had always been acting? And I think it's when I started to recognize that I'm being treated differently because I'm struggling, I started to realize why so many people really are held back because it was in that lack of support that caused me to, like you said, like it was like my whole life just shattered. Like I didn't know what to do, how to act, where to go. I didn't even know what my dreams or aspirations were anymore because all the dreams and aspirations that I had, I realized weren't even my own. They were the ones that I was told to have. And so I embarked on this journey where throughout my depression and my mental health struggles, I would write articles and share my story, and specifically to my like personal network. Like I wasn't even trying to grow yet. I was trying to tell the people that already knew me that I'm changing. And it was in figuring all those things out and being unapologetic in telling the world like I am a different person now because I'm coming into my own, it not only built me with strength, but it also showed me what I was really passionate about, which is really empowering others with the ability to embrace their identity as well. So, I've been on this journey and I'm still on it, but I've been, trying to find my own strengths and how I can give back, and recognizing that having a platform where I share my story, but even beyond that, building resources, building a community, eventually being able to be that beacon of light, like build a place where you can go and feel accepted no matter who you are or what you're going through, and hopefully find something that resonates with you that can help you hold on to. Because I know in my journey, there were so many random little YouTube videos or a post or something that someone else did that got me through that day or that week or that month. So now I want to spend my time doing the same.
I anybody who knows my story on my platform knows this, but like mine was the same. And that's why I started to share, because I just came across these platforms where it was like a total shift in that moment. I would read something or saw something of just like, oh my gosh, I know, like that's it. Like that's and I totally believe in like the universe and your intuition and everything, and it comes to you when you need it. And that's what it was like, and when you don't know what you don't know what answer you're looking for. And so to hear that and be like, oh my gosh, that's it. Like that was it. And so to be that person, I just that's what I want. If that one post I put out there is that post that makes somebody go, oh, that's
Yeah.
all I want. Yeah.
No, exactly that actually, because it was like you said, you don't know what you don't know. You know that
Mhm.
you're confused, you're struggling, but you don't even know what answer it is that you're looking for, and that can be very frustrating sometimes. And what I found is sometimes, especially we're in 2024 in this day and age, it's easier to seek those answers from a stranger online than it
Mhm.
is to seek those answers from the people who personally know you, because they know so much of your story that it's just as confusing to them. And like you said, it's those moments where you're watching a video and it's almost like this person created this video for me in this moment in time. Like it literally feels like that's what just happened, because everything you're saying is exactly what I needed to hear. And then recognizing that the person that I'm watching, they're on their own journey. They did not create this video specifically for me for this moment in time, but something in the universe, something aligned where that's exactly what happened. And so I truly believe that it is in us embarking on our own journeys and finding that potential in us and really believing in it that really helps everyone else and builds that better world that we all are looking for. And yeah, I also just like in this journey meeting other people that are on a similar path of wanting to put their story out there and wanting to be that beacon of light as well. Like it's really helped me align with people that I resonate with more. Another thing about kind of playing to other people's idea of you is that you do not always align yourself with people that are best serving you. And I definitely did that for a long time because I chose people based off of who people told me I should be. And as soon as I let go of that, I started to align with people that actually fill my cup rather than taking away from it.
Yeah. Oh, you said that also perfectly. Like, I remember that too. And like coming out of my deconstruction from my religious background and stuff, like I remember those were even questions way back. I would ask myself, why do I always get answers from somebody else who I'm not supposed to be getting answers from? And you're so right. It's because they can see out, they can see into it. Whereas your circle, not that they don't want the best for you or would
Right.
say that, but they don't want you to change. They aren't in it for you to level up and become a different person. They're supportive and all the things and whatnot, but they're not always in it for you to level up and be that next version of yourself. They can't see that because they know you for who you are. And so I love how you said that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think you then feel a little bit of guilt as you're changing who you are, and you know that like you said, the people around you, the people who have known you, it's uncomfortable for them too, because they're so set in who you've been. And you start to internalize that yourself, because you then begin to question, like, am I doing something wrong? Because the people that I care about the most are getting hurt or feeling hurt based off of who I am trying to become. And I'm not gonna sugarcoat it and say that it's easy. It's a long and it's a hard journey. But truly, when you still dedicate yourself to yourself and you still put the work in and you do grieve and you do feel that guilt and you allow yourself all those feelings, one day you do wake up and you look back and you see, like, wow, like, I have secured so many healthy boundaries for myself. Yes, I've lost people along the way, but now I see why I had to lose them. And in that same time, I've kept so many people, and our relationships have gotten stronger because they stuck with me through this period. And in that same time, I've met new people who I never would have expected to meet, and met in ways that I wouldn't have even put myself in those positions. But now I'm sitting here so much happier in who I am, feeling so much more aligned. And again, I'll always repeat that there's never going to be a point where you wake up and you're just done with the work. But you will wake up and recognize that the work you've already put in has done something to benefit you and get you closer to that life you dream of.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point. I think we don't recognize enough how much of, honestly, almost a lonely journey it is at times, because you're in those, like, a gap where you're the person you were, you're becoming the person you want to be, and so you don't really fit in, and you're still, yeah, trying to align yourself with those new people and those new thought processes, and it really is a lonely period of time. But like you said, on the other side of that is what is so worth it. And I think as you go through, I mean, I'm only 30, so I imagine I have quite a bit of life to live. And I most recently had my most biggest revelation this past year. And that right there, on the flip side of that one, makes me just want to, like, what's next? I know it's going to be really hard, but what's next? Because on the other side of that growth is phenomenal. So
Yeah, no, 100%. And yes, that transition phase, like, it can be very uncomfortable at times, because now it's like you're too far in to go back, but you're not fully there yet. And you don't really know what to do with it. You know you're in transition, but it's like hard to just sit there in that transition. And in
yeah.
fact, like, so all of 2023, I took a pause from, like, literally everything. I said this is my year of looking within. And it was a very boring year. I'm not gonna lie. It was a very lonely year. There were a lot of times where I sat there and thought to myself, am I just punishing myself? Like, am I even doing any of this for any real gain? Or am I just deciding to disconnect for no reason? But then, throughout that entire year, I had my website, podcast, blog all, like, paused. Like, literally everything was paused. And then I
Wow.
relaunched this September. And when I relaunched in September, after literally over a year of silence, I came back and kind of was just like, all right, I'm picking up where I left off. It was still uncomfortable because I'm posting to, a platform of people that are just like, oh, you're still continuing? Like, we're back to this again? And so it was a very, like, rough time period. But in that, I saw how much growth I did in that time of isolation once I started posting again, because I had less fear, I had more confidence, I wasn't as scared to say things that I would have been in the past. And on top of that, within 4 months, like from September to December, I come into this year and I literally feel like a brand new person. I have seen all that work slowly come into alignment, and
Mm.
everything kind of start to work itself out. And it's not like I just woke up and suddenly magic fell into my lap. It was the work that I've been putting in for months, for years, that now just came into fruition because it was my timing, because that's how it all works. And it's also just trusting that you're not supposed to know how it's all going to work out, just trusting that it will. And I think that's a really hard thing to do, but when you do that, the release of pressure on yourself that you give is so worth it. Like, all that work, so many times, I sat there like, what am I doing? And now I can sit here and be proud of all of that. I can sit here and say, you know what? If I didn't do all of that, I would have still been that girl that was living for everybody else. And I'm so glad that that's a person of the past now.
Yeah, it's so true. Like to look back, those reflections. I do love reflecting. I'm learning to live more in the present and not have so many future goals and stuff. But even in reflection, like a coach had me start writing down everything I accomplished so that I could do an end year recap. And I just started, yeah, like honestly, back in like August or September. And so even just looking at that short period, just like
Right.
a pretty it's kind of funny, our timelines are very similar, but
Yeah.
just looking at that very short period and all the things I've done and like reflecting on that person I was like, yeah, 4 months ago is just
Mhm.
like, oh my gosh, like
Yes.
it's so valuable. I think it's so important to that healing journey because you don't, when you're doing personal growth, you don't feel it. It's not like can see tangible results. But when you think back on those mindsets you have, the view you had of yourself, your self-esteem, the reflection you had of the world, even, is a huge shift to recognize, wait, I
Mhm.
don't think like that anymore, or actually I don't catch myself feeling bad that, I thought this way, but I just couldn't get it implemented in my actions daily. And now I do. Like I don't even think twice. I just believe this, I know it, and I do it.
Yes. No, 100%. And I love that you mentioned reflection because I I'm a big advocate for reflection. I think it's so important for self-awareness and for just really taking that time to enjoy the moments that are coming with life. I think sometimes life is going so fast that we just go one after the other that we don't even recognize how many accomplishments we really had. And so I'm a big journaler, like super big
Mhm.
journaler. And right before I went silent, actually, the last thing I posted was a podcast episode of me just reading from my journal. Just like I chose certain entries and I just read un what's that word? Uncensored and just
Mhm.
like went through it. And my whole goal with that was one to like because I've gotten into a lot of conversations with people who are like, I'd like to start journaling, but I don't write very well, or like I just judge myself too much, and all these different things that hold them back. So I wanted to show them like, okay, you know that I'm a journaler, but I don't know what you think I'd be writing in there. It's very like it's not like publishable, like it's very
Mhm.
stream of thought. It's like some of it sounds like a child, some like there's a lot of emotions that you wouldn't want to admit to yourself. Like there are a lot of things, but it's nice to have a place to dump that all. And another part of my goal with that was to show what the journey that we all talk about can really look like. We see the highlights all the time on the internet, but in reality it's not that fun. It's like 20% of it is maybe great, but 80% of it is a lot of emotions. It's a lot of like setting boundaries, figuring out relationships, understanding what toxicity is. And so I wanted to just be able to talk about that. And really like internally what that really was to give me the confidence to talk about those things, because once you post your journal and just talking about it online, then there really is nothing to be afraid of anymore. Like all the backlash that I'm gonna get has been gotten. Like what else? And I've survived and I'm on the other side. And so it was also an example of just being courageous. And so I put it out there, and then after I did it though, I didn't know where to go from there. After I did it, I was also, dealing with my own stuff, recognizing that there are a lot of things that I know I want to say, but in this transition period that I am currently in, there are
Mhm.
so many emotions that I'm still dealing with that I don't want my message to come across incorrectly, I guess.
Mhm.
And so, and in that period of pause, what I realized it really was that I was trying to help the world before I even took a step back to help myself. And so I
Mhm.
really needed to take that time to understand myself before I was telling everybody else to understand themselves. And I think that was really important. Like you have to practice what you preach, you know?
Oh yeah, yeah. Perfectly said. Yeah, I'm a big journaler too. That was some of my biggest growth back in 2020. I just journaled and journaled. So I understand that. And yeah, like you said, the emotions and the feelings that come up, the handwriting that comes out, all of it is
Yes,
not publishable at all. And
right.
that is a very brave move to, I realize you picked and choose, but still very vulnerable to do that. That's huge. That's a huge experience. So I am curious, so in your year of time off, and you can get as personal as you want to, but what were some of the more things you were struggling with in your identity? I think that's what you had alluded to earlier, and
Yeah,
how you worked through that, and maybe some of the, tools you used to get through that, and a little bit more
sure.
about that.
I'm gonna preface it by going back to 2022 first, so you can understand where my
Mm,
head was at.
awesome.
So I had, after graduating college, I had moved out of state, joined this fellowship, super complicated, but like joined a fellowship, moved out of state, completely changed my life, and just like it was like I graduated one day and then moved the next. And within that transition, I also broke up with my long-term ex who,
Mm,
because of a lot of these things about my identity that I was recognizing, that I also realized wouldn't align with us. Like we weren't actually good for each other. We were good for each other for this phase.
mm,
So now I'm in a whole new city, dealing with a breakup, meeting all new people, trying not to be the girl with all this baggage, but very aware that I had all this baggage. And so
it's a real
it,
thing. Yep.
yeah, exactly. And
Yep.
so it was a lot of different things, and actually that journal that I read was actually from that year. So after I had done all that, I once my lease was up, was recognizing that like I still have so much that I need to figure out, but life is moving so fast. And I honestly don't know if this fellowship is really aligned with me anymore. And so I had decided to move back home, move back in with my parents, and quit my job and stop talking to like all of my friends and like literally completely just ended everything. And it's a big hit to the ego, of course, like moving back in with your parents after you moved out, after you told yourself you're going to live this life, which also, like, moving out as a Bengali Muslim girl was not easy for my parents. It wasn't a They were supportive, but they didn't fully understand it, and so they took it very personally. They constantly were worried about my safety, and I was also going through my own like sexual journey at post breakup and trying to figure myself out, which, you know, I don't have a family that you can be honest about that with. So
Yep.
it was a lot of different things. A lot of drama back home, which also like I felt like I was away. So all this drama back home was just so much more heightened because I wasn't even there to be able to control my own narrative within that.
Mm,
And so in 2023, my whole goal was to take a step back from all of this, really recognize which parts of this I care about, which parts of it can go away, which parts of it I need to prioritize. And what I landed on was, at the end of the day, I'm a family girl. Like, I cannot feel good about myself if I feel like my parents do not understand who I am. And so I said, I need to work on my relationship with my parents. I need
mm,
to, I also, after a year after my breakup and figuring all of that out, because a lot of it was, um, he was Catholic, I was Muslim. He was raised in upstate New York. I was raised right outside of DC. So a lot of our viewpoints were very different, and we aligned, but I knew our families wouldn't, and that as time went on, we wouldn't be able to be a united front in dealing with our families because we were on opposite sides. And so that also made me have a lot of opinions about relationships in general, and especially in our very globalized world, like interracial relationships, and how there are certain conversations that you need to have in an interracial relationship that we don't really talk about. And I did research while in this relationship, trying to figure out, what is toxic, what isn't, like how do you compromise with your values, and like when is it too much of a compromise. And I didn't find much at all on the internet about any of this. And so that really, like, to me, it's like I'm like 99% sure that like if I'm going to be in a relationship, these are going to be issues that come up. So if I don't see the answers, I must be the answers. And yeah, so I also was celibate during my year off. Still am, but figuring it out. But like I was celibate, took time off from men, took time off from just like prioritizing romantic love and instead giving that love to myself. And yeah, all of those things coming into 2024, again, those problems, they didn't disappear, but they are not debilitating anymore. They don't feel like they are taking over my life anymore, or that they're, because of all of these things, I can't be anything else. Like, I'm just going to be the girl with the baggage. That is how I felt for a long, long time. And then I feel like in this year, I found a way to turn that baggage into my superpower. And in 2024, my goal is to show the world exactly how I did that.
Yeah. Wow, congratulations. That's all I feel like saying.
Thank you. Thank
Because
you.
yeah, that's a journey. Oh my God, everything you touched on, talk about, and so much wisdom from you to step back. Like that takes a lot. That takes a lot of just integrity and bravery and, just so much in there just from you as a person shines through. Like that's absolutely beautiful. Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that so
Yeah.
much. I think, and a big part of it, like you said, there's so much to what I just spewed
Mhm.
out on you. And a big part of it is in real time, all that happening at once makes it really confusing to understand what even is happening, because at the end of the day, you're one person living one moment at a time. And while all this is going on, you can't even really understand it. Like, you don't even know why you're sad or upset or why you're struggling or like what exactly is affecting you. And I remember there were days where I just woke up sometimes and just felt like, "Ugh, this whole day is against me." Like that I don't even want to get out of bed because like any move I make, like there's going to be something against me. And so like even just like today, like I wake up now with a smile on my face just recognizing that I don't feel that way. Like I don't feel like the day is
Yeah.
against me today, and that feels so good. Like so yes, thank you so much. I
Yeah.
appreciate the congrats.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's awesome. Like, yeah, like you said, there's so many moving parts and pieces. And I feel like personal growth is always that way. Like
Mm,
every woman I run into, they're like, this is what I talk about. And then we start talking and it's like, oh, they've been through like 100 other things because
thanks.
that's what makes us who we are. And that's why who we are as a person and every detail of our story matters. And whether, choose to share it publicly, like we do, or you just have it on your sleeve to share with another person, it's so valuable because no one has lived through it like you have or has that same story to tell.
Exactly. And yes, I love how you said that. Like, whether you share it publicly to the world or just to your friend or family, like,
Mhm.
your story matters regardless of how you decide to make it matter. And that's not something you need to prove to yourself. It's already decided that it matters because you exist. And there's a reason why you exist. And there's a reason why you hold the relationships you do and had the experiences you did. And I feel like a lot of times we don't even realize the impacts that we could be having. Going back to the whole like watching a YouTube video or seeing a post, you can have that in like your regular day-to-day interaction. Like, there are also moments in time where I would just be talking to a friend or someone I just met, and the conversation of my website comes up, and something they say about what I've been working on completely helped me figure everything out. And like I'd hold on to it. Even how I started this when you asked me to introduce, when I said I'm Bengali Muslim, this, that, it actually came from a conversation I had with someone. And, I had just mentioned all these identifiers, and they were just like, you need to start like introducing yourself that way, because that actually like helped me understand what you're trying to say in one sentence and how you're trying to show that you're not just one thing, you're all of these things. And it's all of these things working in conjunction with each other that make you Taz. And like since then I've held on to it. And that's just one example. And also the thing about whenever I feel like everyone gets the advice if they're trying to do anything online to just start. And it can be frustrating sometimes because, yeah, I know, but like, how? And the thing about it is like the reason why everyone says that is because there is no how. It's how you decide to do it because that's going to form the story. And you have no idea what you're going to pick up along the way. And we can't tell you what it's going to be because neither do we because it's your journey. And
Yep.
so, yeah.
Yeah, and it's so true. And like when you have that desire to share and change and make a change, it comes to you, like just anytime I've made it a priority in my head where maybe it wasn't even me, my higher self is yelling at me,
Yeah.
you need to talk about this, people, like you said, come into your alignment to also share your story. Recently, I was trying to get back into advocacy and whatnot, and it was suggested to me to get a job where people would be coming to that have these problems. And so I did. And it was like my first week on the job, a woman just started spilling her whole story about her divorce and her finances and started crying. And I'm like standing there going, this is why I'm here, like, and so you can put yourself in those situations where it is in alignment with you, and these people will come across, or come across your path as well. It's so, so cool.
Yes, and
Yeah.
it's so important to be able to build the skill to recognize when you are having that impact because again, I think sometimes it goes back to reflection. Sometimes life is happening so fast that you don't even see it, you don't even recognize it. When the signs are there, the universe is trying to tell you that you're doing well, but the way the universe rewards you is very different from the way we're taught rewards are given. And so like it's not gonna be a big ass paycheck on the first day. Like you just wake up and here you go. It'll be in a small comment or somebody reaching out to you and saying how much you affected them, or even something as small as just you feeling so proud of that work that you put in. Because these things add up. These are the things that are the magic, that make all of this worth it. Nobody is in it for the income. Like, yes, that's great. It helps us survive, but we're in it for something so much bigger, so much more passionate. And actually, I have a story of which recently happened like a couple months ago. I was at a party and somebody that had listened to my last podcast episode came up to me and was like, "Oh my goodness, I'm so glad you're here because I actually wanted to tell you something." And I was like, "Okay, what is it? Like, what's up?" And so she said, like, "I listened to your last episode, which was it was a deep dive on what's so wrong with being a hoe, and I talked all about my own sexual journey and explained how like we should not be afraid to go on this journey, whether it's for religious reasons or men telling you otherwise or your friends or whoever." And I kind of talked about, all the different things that were going on in my life that helped made me feel like I should hold myself back. And she said, after reading your article and listening to that episode, and this is somebody who was raised in the Catholic Church. She went to private Catholic schools. She has a very strong religious community. And so she said, like, after listening to your episode, I had decided to go all the way with my current boyfriend, which I had been feeling for a while, but always felt like everyone around me was telling me that that's a wrong and bad thing to do. And it felt like you not only gave me the validation that I needed to hear, but you also helped me recognize that I was feeling within that that's not how I wanted to live my life. And you helped me find that strength to live it based off of how I wanted to live. And I almost cried. I actually almost cried when I was told this because I was just so happy that my story was able to help somebody else come into their own. And she had also told me, like, I didn't know who else to tell after the fact because, first of all, we're so late in life that I felt like some of my friends would just be like, "Oh, like, it took you that long." And then my other friends would be like, "You didn't wait." I felt really good about the fact that she felt comfortable enough to tell me this, about the fact that I somehow played a part in her story. I felt so honored to play such a big role in her story in this way. And in that moment, I literally told her, I was like, "Listen, like, you telling me this helped me as much as that podcast episode helped you, because I promise you, this moment I will be holding on to on those bad days where it feels like I'm doing this for nothing. I'm going to remember this moment and remind myself that, like, it is not for nothing, because I told myself at the beginning, if I can just help one person embrace their identity, then I will be happy. And now I can sit here and say that I've done that, you know? So,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, it's so true. I love that story. That is like, that's perfect. That's an amazing story because that will affect her the rest of her life. Like, and even in her intimacy with that partner or any other she has, like that she will carry that mindset with her forever, and it will grow and evolve and continue to change. But like that stepping stone is those realizations of that's what I've been trying to say. That's what I've been trying to figure out in my head amongst all this confusion and noise of so and so telling me this, and it's not for me. I don't know why it's not for me, but it's not for me. And you just put that huge light bulb on for her to be like, because that's me and that's what I'm going to do and that's what my life's going to look like.
Exactly
Yeah.
that. And it also, like, just going back to that vulnerability, it made the vulnerability worth it. Like, at the end of the day,
Mhm.
being vulnerable is so difficult. It is so difficult to basically tell the world, yes, judge me. And so, like, in those moments where you're like, this is why, because I know that I put that out there, and that there's probably well, not a million, but like there's a lot of people there's a lot of people that probably saw that, read it, and was like, why did you post that? Like, why would you do that? But then, this is why, like, this is why. And all those other thoughts literally don't matter, they're none of my business, like, but this right here help, like, is that beacon. And yeah, I think going back to just how people's stories affect one another, at the end of the day, as spiritual beings, it is the stories that we are writing that gives life meaning. And if it weren't for those stories, we're just all out here trying to survive, and that's just not the perspective I choose to take, because it's too boring for me and too depressing for me. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's so true because life is, and we go through so many phases, it's so much. And especially in our modern age, I feel like, life is not very simple right now. It's a whole full-time job just to make sure bills are paid on time half the time, and check the list and make sure, the car is registered and this is there. And then if you have kids, it's a whole nother ball game. Like life is very hard to juggle everything. And then we are dealing with these emotional issues that no one talks about, and especially previous generations did not talk about. I mean, we're still getting comfortable talking about, our periods and pregnancy, let alone, like that's still very taboo in so many circles to even mention, let alone get into the details about what's going on in your body.
Right. And it's just like recognizing that, because we're all so afraid to talk about it, we don't even realize how similar we're all struggling. Like,
Mhm.
we're all going through the same things. I think one thing that I I might have just made this up once, but I picked it up from, like, stories that I've heard, is that the beautiful thing about humanity is the fact that we're all living such different lives, but it's so interconnected. Like, there are parallels across the board. And the beautiful thing about each individual person are those differences that nobody else holds. So it's the similarities that's so beautiful about being a part of this bigger picture, but you are such a valuable piece of that picture. Like, the puzzle won't be complete without you in it. And so I think if if we can be that moment of time where, even if it's for 20 minutes of a podcast, where people can just tune in and forget about those bills they got to pay, and forget about the stress of their job or their school, or not really knowing what path they're going down, and just remember that we're part of something so much more bigger and beautiful than all of that, and our existence is what's creating that beauty, then it makes life a little bit more bearable. Like, it makes it more exciting. It makes waking up every day not feel like the world is against you. And that is something that I know that everyone listening, I know y'all have had at least one day where you woke up feeling like everything is against you and what is even the point? Like, why? Like, just why? And it is your job to find that why. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love it. I have started to use the word to sum all that up of just being human. I know that's been tossed around and it's finding its own new definition too, but that's how I've been using it is being
Yeah.
human, feeling human, just because we all are human, but we all have our own unique identity, as you say, and we have to embrace that.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And I think
So,
it's,
oh,
yeah, go ahead.
no, go ahead. No, finish what you're gonna say. I was gonna change topics, so go ahead.
Okay.
Continue.
I was just going to say, I think it's also just so beautiful when you watch yourself embracing that and then seeing that change, like we talked about, even in those 4 month period, like you really notice in yourself when it's happening because then you start to feel more, I feel like confident is the wrong word, maybe aligned, but you just know, like you just know, you just wake up and you're just like, yeah, now it's right, it feels right, it fits right, it is right. And I think it's so beautiful, and it can be lonely because the thing is you're the only one that can really see that growth from your perspective, but knowing that everyone's doing the same thing, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, knowing you're all on that journey of finding what is an alignment for you. I feel like so much of it too, especially as women, our intuition, and that's kind of actually that kind of segues into what I was going to ask you anyway. So, but especially as women, we have shoved our intuition so far down. We're told exactly what to think, do, be, behave, our wants, our desires,
Yep.
all of that is handed to us as a woman. And so we don't take intuition and just do, so many men, and I think men are struggling with it more as we've, gone forward. But, men just do. They just wake up and they do, and no one really judges them that much. They're just, well, that's John, that's Ben, and women are so much like, oh yeah, she's really strong-willed. Yeah, she just does what she wants. We get labeled with all these types of women that are bad. I'm using air quotes,
Right.
and
Right.
they're not bad. They're just, I think men and women can have very, different personalities and they manifest. They're not masculine. They're not feminine. We both can manifest these same things. But yeah, with strong both societal and religion. I think religion has had a lot to do with it. We've had these influences that have specifically dictated towards women in our patriarchy. And I would love for that was going to be my question was I would love for you to talk about that growing up with your background and everything you've dealt with, both in your family and in society, the struggles that you've had and overcome.
Yeah, let me plug this in real quick so my
Yes, go
laptop
for
died, but I got lots to say.
it.
Okay, perfect. So first off, I actually want to talk about a book. Have you ever heard of the book, The Seven Necessary Sins for Women and Girls?
I have not, no.
I think I have it right here. I'm going to show it to you because it needs to be on your reading list. Absolutely.
Okay.
I don't have it. It's fine. Oh, I found it. Okay, this is her.
Okay.
And it talks about exactly what you just mentioned, and how like certain personality types are seen differently just because you're a girl having it. And so those seven sins, which I think are just written in the front, one of them is attention, and profanity, I think, is another one, like things that men don't get questioned on, you know. Anger, attention, profanity, ambition, power, violence, and lust. And reading this book really, really empowered me in a lot of ways. I actually have like a little book report on my website about it because I was like, people
Oh,
need to
awesome.
read this.
Yeah.
Um, and in terms of, so I read this towards the end of last year. So once I relaunched, and so it really helped in that way. But going back to what my story was, like reading it and applying it to who I am, um, really empowered me in that I think a lot of the things that she was saying, um, I had already internalized, and she kind of made it seem like she validated the fact that all of us as women feel this way because of the society we live in. For example, I've always been made to feel like I was an attention whore, when in reality, on the one hand, who doesn't like attention? And on the other hand, you're giving me the attention. Like you're getting mad at me because you want to give me the attention. So it makes zero sense. And then just also I've talked about in terms of relationships with other women, I think we in a patriarchal society have been taught to pit ourselves against each other and to
Mhm.
feel like there can only be one best and there's only space for one best, and if you're that girl, then other women around you really try to bring you down. And I hate that because I am a girl's girl, but I feel like every girl says she's a girl's girl, you know?
Yep.
So what even is a girl's girl? That's a whole other topic. And I feel like all these things that I'm saying um, are things that have been talked about, but in a perspective that I think is overdone and isn't really sharing the message correctly. Because I feel like when it comes to the patriarchy, we talk about it kind of politically. And yes, there is a political aspect to it. But at the end of the day, the part of it that really affects every single girl on this planet is the social part, you know? And just like you walking into a room and immediately getting a little less respect because you're not male. And even within my family, girl, woo, there's just no regard for the female opinion in my family's culture, which I haven't really gotten into much on my platform because I've been trying to find the way to say it correctly, but I plan to, and I'm glad like you actually asked about it because I dealt with my biggest moments of feeling shamed as a woman from my own family. I also have dealt with my biggest moments of feeling unsafe as a woman because of my own family. And so it and then the responsibility of educating my family of what is happening here also fell on me. Like that's where that whole first generation college educated component comes in. I'm so proud of my parents for getting me a college education, but also because of that, I have an understanding that they do not. And like I can't just say it within a sentence. I have literally 16 years of schooling that gave me that understanding. And so it's really hard to even communicate sometimes because the words like aren't translating the way you want them to translate. And then because it's coming from a woman, there's not even any respect of what those words hold, regardless of the education. So it there was a point where I truly felt like I, as a woman, just have to put in all this work just to get as much um, approval as a man for being a man. And I absolutely hate that. And I like I think part of the reason why I want to be an entrepreneur instead of work for someone else is because I want to show that a woman can do it. Like I don't even need a man in the sense of giving me a paycheck. Like I'm gonna do it all on my own and I'm gonna show y'all.
Yeah.
And it's it's one of those things where there's so much passion going on inside me right now, but I'm like trying to find the words to say it because it can also get very aggressive with this passion because there's a lot of hurt and pain. Like I am very much one of the things that I've shifted in my identity is that now I'm very strong-willed in like saying I don't like men. And I don't mean that I don't like them, but I don't like what they stand for.
Mhm.
And I don't care if you're a man or a woman, I will say that and stand by that value. And we can either have that conversation or we can not. And that shows me how we are aligned. And then same thing with mentioning, you mentioned like periods and pregnancy. I also now like I don't care who you are. Like if I got cramps, I'm gonna say it because what the like why is that a problem? Why can you not know that? Why is it socially acceptable for guys to fart in a room and find it funny, but girls can't say that they're on their period. Like,
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yep.
so
Well, or men adjusting their pants or whatever. Like they have
yes,
no shame.
they have
But if
no, they
I
can
reach
literally
over and
sit
scratch
there with
my
their hands
boob, there's a
in their
problem.
face. Right,
Yep.
right, right. And I like, and one thing about me is that I want to have these conversations where men are hearing it, not
Mhm.
feeling attacked by it, because I don't think they should. They are as much members of our society as we are. So they deserve to be a part of the conversation because we won't find that change unless they agree that the change needs to be made. So I had been really trying both in my personal life and in my content creation to have the conversations in a way where men want to tune in, where men want to give their opinion and their viewpoints. Because what I have found is that I don't want to say all of them, but in general, like they are not looking to oppress. They just don't understand how their
Yep.
actions are oppressive. And so to help them understand that, I think would help us all as a society.
Mhm.
And yeah, so definitely a big topic for me in terms of gender equality and like with my celibacy as well. I did that to, well, first I was a little hoe to claim my sexuality, and then I became celibate to reclaim it, in that being like claiming your sexuality does not mean sleeping with everyone or not sleeping with everyone. It means what
Yep.
you want it to mean at any point in time that serves you. And I think both of those phases served me incredibly. And I think it gives me a very interesting perspective. First of all, being raised Muslim, then being unapologetically sexually active, and then saying, actually, none of you guys are worth my time right now. um and under like standing full in all three of those. And who knows, like you said, time changes, who knows what my future phases in my sexual journey will be, or my journey with understanding men, or my journey with my family. Like, there has been so much educating being done within my family within these last couple years as I have been more vocal. And it sometimes we connect with it, sometimes it leads to a fight, and sometimes you got to deal with that too, because change does not always look pretty either, and you have to be willing to be a part of that ugly in order to make that change happen. So
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's really good. You highlighted everything, I think, very, yeah, because it is a whole topic. Maybe another podcast. We should
right,
do
I was
another
like,
one.
girl, I could go on and on.
But I think two things that you highlighted really well. I love that you come out and say that, you hate men right now. Like, that's okay. I love that. I absolutely do. I think, because as society stands right now, yeah, that is the stance you have to take, because it has to change, and it has to change drastically. But I also love that you said they don't understand, because I think that is a huge generation thing. I think, in our generation, I'm assuming you're around my age, it is complete ignorance because of who's gone before. And not that maybe that wasn't ignorance either. I don't know. I don't know the previous generation. I think a lot of things have affected it. But it definitely was more blatant. There was a lot more verbal and physical abuse towards women. And as we were able to have a voice and speak up and have our own place in society, very small, but as we have been able to, men in our generation are confused. They're like, well, man is this way, but clearly women aren't putting up with that anymore. So what do we do? Like, they do want to understand, while also still not having that emotional, empathetic component. And that's exactly the key to it, is you do have to you do have to take on that identity of caring, of being that person who's in it to care. And so they are just as confused as we can be on this journey. And so I do think there's a lot of grace there. So I love how you said that, because I think they're just as confused as we are. And it's damage. I think the patriarchy itself damages men just as much as it has women in
Yeah.
so many aspects.
And like, I've actually recently changed my view of what the patriarchy even is. I no longer see it as the patriarchy is like men are better than girls. I think it's more so the patriarchy is the belief that masculine energy should be prioritized over feminine energy.
Exactly.
It has nothing to do with whether you're a guy or a girl, and more about what masculinity and femininity stand for. And I think one of the things I'd like to do in telling my story is slowly build that framework where it's not boys versus girls out here. We are all literally disadvantaged because we're just like, even if it was a matriarchy, we'd still be disadvantaged. It's the
Exactly.
idea of harmony between the two energies, because
Mhm.
they are the two dominating energies that exist in this world, and we do need both for balance. Like, there are positives and negatives to both, and without the other without one, the other would not be able to flourish.
Mhm.
So being able to understand that and have conversations in that way, where it's not a conversation of you're good, you're not good, you're doing wrong, you're not doing wrong. Like,
Mhm.
we are all just a part of this like spectrum, this aura, this thing out here, and we all fall somewhere in it, like, we as women also have masculine energy within us, and it's going back to what you were saying. When we show it, we just happen to be labeled negatively because of it. When if we're not able to freely be able to express that part of us, then we won't also be able to grow. Like, we as women are not meant to only be nurturing and compassionate and empathetic. While we are, and while we
Mhm.
are also intuitive, we also have ambition and drive and strength and leadership. And the same goes for men. And as you said, like, when it comes to from a man's perspective, as a man, you're told what a man should be, just like we're told what a woman should be. And that does not help you either, because that does not teach men to be in touch with their emotions. It does not teach men to properly regulate their emotions. Another thing that I have found is that women have the reputation of being the more dramatic gender, but
Yeah.
men, like, I feel like men are out here throwing a tantrum every second of every day, and women are just trying to calm them down all the time.
Yeah.
And like, I for one am tired of it, because my emotions are enough to deal with. I
Mhm.
don't need to put yours first. And men were, I think, going back to like the whole generational thing, I don't think men were ever taught to put another person's emotions first,
No.
because they
Mhm.
never had to.
Yep.
And it's unfortunate for this generation of men who are now being asked to, because they're the first in line.
Mhm.
But without them doing this tough work, like, we'll never see the change that we want to. And in all honesty, I feel like our generation in general, being the one that is more informed because of the internet and more globalized, there's just a bigger responsibility on all of us to make bigger change, because we're
Okay.
just more aware now, and we have more to hold on to and understand than we did in the past.
Yes, exactly. And, and it sounds like we're putting a lot on them because they're the first generation, but you and I are the first generation doing exactly what we're doing too. And so they can step up to the plate and do just as much. I have to quote Jess Estrom, who we've met through. Her quote is, knowledge is responsibility. It's not power. That is something she's quoted a couple times these last couple of weeks. And yeah, it is. It is our responsibility. There needs to be a change. It's up to you to be on that journey until you figure out what that change is and how to make it happen. And so,
Yes.
yeah, exactly. Yep.
Definitely. And I think, like, with that, there should be like a disclaimer with the knowledge being responsibility, because there was a point where I had actually wished I wasn't educated, because it would have been easier, simpler, if I
Mhm.
just didn't know any of it. If I could
Yeah.
just accept my position in life. But
Mhm.
once you know, there's no going back. Like, the knowledge is there now. And you can either sit there with that understanding and do nothing about it, or take on that responsibility for change.
Yeah.
And there's a reason why, um like, all of our great leaders, like, they're respected for a reason, because it's not easy to hold on the weight of all of that. And it's but I truly believe, like, if you exist, you got time on this planet. Like, you really can't just be frolicking around anyway. Like you're gonna be stressed about something because that's just
Mhm.
how life works. So why not be stressed about something that you can really stand behind and feel
Yeah.
passionate about and like leave a legacy behind?
Yeah, exactly. Like that's the thing. And I find too that when I've been in those moments of transition where I do know the truth, but I know who it's gonna hurt, like you've talked about your family and different scenarios, but close friends, all the things, that's when I die inside. Because I'm like, and whether or not they agree with me, I'm not out here to change minds anymore. I don't believe I'm on that mission anymore. I've been there, done that, but I just it's me. Like it's because I'm not living in my truth if I don't share
Right.
that. Mhm.
Right. No,
Yeah.
100%. I definitely was in a phase where I thought it was now my responsibility to change the entire world
Mhm.
and like find to bring all the peace that we need. And then yes, learning that you also need to let go of that, like the responsibility is you and how you
Mhm.
run your life and how that will impact the people that you run into, whether that be 5 people or 5 million, it doesn't matter because it's still causing that change. Because at the end of the day, even if you're somebody that barely gets out, like very introverted, you don't want to get out the house, you don't want to tell your story, but just putting in that personal work and understanding yourself and having that self-awareness, you're still going to meet people in life and you don't know the impact you'll have on those people, and then how that impact will then turn around and the work they do from there, like it's all a domino effect. And I constantly just always think about like the little moments and people in my life and how if those little moments or people didn't happen, then I wouldn't be here. And you as an individual are doing that same thing to other people. And so it's really like we're all a part of a giant, giant web. We really are. And I think recognizing that takes the pressure off a little bit. I
Mhm.
think sometimes, yes, it could feel like it takes away your uniqueness, but I think the way you have to think about it is like imagine a spider web, and if you take off one little line in that spider web, it don't look like a nice spider web no more. And you're that
Mhm.
line. Like you play a
Mhm.
part in the web.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Our individuality is so important. It's
Hmm.
so important for the whole big picture. And I think that's, yeah. Yeah. I think, yeah, I agree both ways. Like, I think you can make it look one way. But the other side, the flip side of it is so beautiful where it's like, no, you have to be individually you to make an impact on this world. And I mean, that's what's the messy, hard stuff. And it's also just beautiful.
Right,
So,
right. And I think
yeah.
it's wonderful for us to anybody that is alive today has the privilege and blessing of being alive with technology.
Mhm.
And that literally nobody before us can really say that. So we are
Yeah.
so, so blessed because not only can nobody before us say that, but nobody after us will be able to say that they were the generation that started it all. So we are so special. Like everybody
Mhm.
right now is so special in building this trajectory of where humanity is going next, because I think we all can kind of feel that we're in a pivot. Like we're in a
Oh,
pivot
yeah.
right now. So no, I
Yeah,
think
definitely. Even people who I, come across who, I'm like, people still think that. Yeah. And that's saying
yeah,
a lot for me. I'm a Midwest girl, country as they
yeah,
all get out. I meet people who live under a rock and I will meet people and I'm like, people still think that, like,
yeah,
but they still caveat everything. Everything has a disclaimer. We are headed in a different direction. I think you're so right. Like we won't be going back. I
right.
definitely believe that this generation and several to come will not be going back. It can only go forward now. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
100%.
agree. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, I have taken up so much of your time. I appreciate this so much. You are amazing. You are going to go places. I'm so excited to see your journey continue to unfold. I feel like you have probably a book coming out of you. You just have a lot, and I'm so excited. So, why don't you for my audience know where they can find you and follow you and get in touch with you and anything you have coming down the line? You have a podcast. I know you do speaking, things like that. Just share what your plans are for the future as well.
Yeah, so you could check me out in a lot of different places. So, first place is my website, thehustlelegacy.com. Definitely go check it out if any part of my story resonated with you, because everything that I mentioned is on there. So if there's any part of the story that you want to read or hear more about, it's all on there, and I'm plan on growing it. The book is on there. Everyone
Yes,
needs to
send
have.
me a link. Send me a specific link when you send me all your other information of that book, and I'll make sure to include that in the show notes for sure.
Perfect. Yes, I will definitely do that. And then as for socials, you could follow The Hustle Legacy on Instagram at The Hustle Legacy. And then to see more of like behind the scenes, me, my daily life, things like that, follow at Taz's, TAZS .legacy. And I'll give you all of this so that it's all there. Taz's Legacy on Instagram and TikTok. And I also just got on YouTube this month. So The Hustle Legacy, all podcast episodes will be in video form. And yeah, I'm super, super excited. Planning on, as Brigette mentioned, doing public speaking this year, getting into life coaching. We're offering digital products with our episodes now to help build some resources. So a lot of big plans, a lot of things in the works. And just follow me to be up to date on everything, because I'm a little all over the place with dates and things. So follow.
That's all right. Yeah, no, you're definitely worth following. Your energy comes through, and you clearly have just a passion to help. And I think that's the best thing that can come through, is when the person is genuinely in it, like you'll always learn something. So yeah, worth following for sure. So well, thank you again for hopping on today and all this time. This will be a longer episode, but I am so grateful. We probably will definitely have to connect on a future one. And I hope you have a great rest of your week.
Thank you so much, Brigette. Thank you for inviting me. This has been so much fun. I'm so excited when it comes out. You got to let me know like the whole schedule so I could promote like throughout. So
absolutely. Yes, I will get you all that information. So yeah, for sure.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thanks. Thank you for joining us today on the Fierce Voice podcast. I truly hope you found healing insight, tools, and a space held for you in this journey. We are all in this together, and you are not alone. You can find me, your host, Brigette Gildemaster, on all social media platforms, and check out my website at www.brigittegildemaster.com, where you can listen to past Fierce Voice episodes, check out my media features, find my books, and inquire about booking me for your next virtual or in-person event. My keynotes are impactful with real-life stories, actionable tools, and inspiration for healing after a life-altering experience. Or check out my workshop event to learn more about how you can prevent abuse in your area. Have a wonderful day, and we'll catch you next time on the Fierce Voice Podcast.